I think you said you just prepare for the team, right? I mean, you have to assume she'll be there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, from everything that we've read, assuming she tests negative because, according to her dad's Facebook page, she didn't have COVID. It was a close contact situation. So I assume if she tests out, she'll be playing. So, yeah, we have to assume that they'll have their full slate, at least the two sisters.
Coach, with you obviously, now down to 9 players on the roster, but you've played pretty much like that consistent kind of 7 rotation the past 2 games at least. Is that a number that you're just kind of comfortable with, kind of going the rest of the year?
Do I have a choice? Yeah, I mean, I think that, look, I think even if you look at the last game, I mean, we're gonna start to experiment more with Kate at the 3 to kind of give us that balance. I've always thought that having 3 posts is enough. I mean, even if you played your 2 starting posts 30 minutes, that would mean your backup post only gets 20, and so, because I'm sitting right next to her, that's not enough minutes for her. So there's ways to, foul trouble affects that. I mean, certain things affect that you aren't in your control, but, having a solid rotation of guards and a solid rotation of posts, it's not like kids are begging to sit on the bench. So, I think when you look at box scores around the country, there are certainly teams that play 9 players consistently, but there's probably more teams that play 7 consistently and then sometimes play an 8th.
Caitlin, along that same line, I'm sure you're more than happy to just, obviously play more minutes and have those opportunities to have that tighter rotation, right?
Absolutely. Just I'm there whenever she needs me. She knows I'm well prepared. I know all the positions. I know what I need to do offensively, defensively. So it's never a problem whenever Coach Nicki needs out of me.
Aside from minutes, Caitlin, what's the biggest difference between your role this season and in the past 3 years?
I think. Oof, that's tough. I think obviously defensively, I'm always really big on defense. I think I've gotten a lot better last year. I think last year, kind of at the end of the season, I really grew defensively, kind of knowing my strengths on defense. And I think just this year, with this coaching staff and the confidence that they have in me, I feel like I've been able to be a little bit more aggressive offensively and giving them a little bit more offensively.
Caitlin, where have you seen this Iowa State team and program kind of move and advance in the couple of years you've been at Baylor? Because it seems like they got a nice solid team, and now they're the team that's kind of top 10 and come in and all those things.
Yeah, I mean, they've had their whole roster. I mean, they all, besides, Donarski, Ryan, a couple of those freshmen, they've all had that squad for a really long time. I mean, most of them are like in the class of me and Liz and Queen. And obviously when you have that consistency throughout 4 years, there's no choice but to get better every single year. So I'm not shocked at all, considering the way they finished last year in the tournament, how they're coming out this year. They're definitely solid, and I'm excited to play them.
They've gotten the best of Baylor the last couple of years, somehow split in the series, it seems. What is it about Iowa State that's allowed them to be the kryptonite for the Bears?
They're just different than Big 12 teams. Big 12's known for posting. Big 12's known just for a lot bigger body, a lot more aggressive. I mean, you see every single game, everyone's hitting bodies, diving on the floor last game. So they're just a different team than a lot of other teams. A lot of them, they can play 5 out every single time pretty much. I think this is the first year where they truly have 2 5 players that, unless they are wide open, they're not going to shoot the 3. They have a lot more shooters than most teams do, and they're not afraid to put up as many threes as they want. So.
And the roles are reversed a little bit this year. I mean, they're the higher-ranked team. Does it feel kind of nice to be coming in as the underdog, quote-unquote?
I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really pay attention to that stuff. Truth be told, especially not this year. I mean, even last year, you see the amount of teams that get upset. I mean, no matter how they didn't have the Joneses the other day, but Texas still beat them. It's very capable to beat any team in the country on any given night. So for me at least, and I know for the girls, that's not, we're not feeling any pressure. We're not doing anything. I think after these last 2 wins, we're just trying to come in every single day, get better, as she would like to say, greater than every day, and just go 1-0 for every game that we play.
Given the history, given that you've played against these same sense of rivalry or anticipation for you personally as you kind of go against them?
No, that's hard. We have gone 1-1 with them every single year. I wouldn't say any sense of rivalry. Obviously, when you go up, I mean, we've been going up against them for 4 years. I know a lot of those girls on the team. So you always want to win. I mean, simple as that. It's not like we don't like each other or anything like that, but you're always going to want to go out there and win and prove that you're the better team. So.
Coach, how does Kamaria leaving affect you guys, and are you able to discuss at all what happened?
I'd rather discuss the players that want to be here. I mean, I think for her, she made a decision that she thought was best for her, and I respect that as a coach, and we're going to respect that as a team and a program. I think, she gave us a lift in certain games, and it just means a bigger role for Jaden Owens, quite frankly. I mean, I think as kind of the one guard off the bench who has played in some of these games, and I think Jaden, no different than Kate, wants as many minutes as she can get and is going to compete for those minutes. So I don't think it changes what our rotation has been the last few games. But, certainly disappointed. She didn't feel like this was the right place for her, and wish her well with whatever decision she chooses to make going forward.
Given that Iowa State spaces the floor the way they do you think that that's going to give Melissa and Queen more opportunities inside, or do you anticipate them kind of doing the same crowding y'all seen all season?
No, I think Iowa State's an interesting program. Offensively, they try to create great spacing. Like Kate said, their two centers that they play are actually very, very effective when you combine their numbers. But they get it done 15 feet and in, and more usually 5 feet and in, versus Kristen Scott last year, who was a three-point sniper and really kept you on your toes. So a year ago, they really did play 5 players all the time that could take and make the three. So, they're a little bit more 4 out, 1 in, or they use that post as a screener. They use them on the backside boards. I use them a little differently. So they're a little bit more traditional than maybe they've been. At the same time, defensively, they're the same. Like, they are going to decide what they want to take away and who they want to take away. And, every opponent is slightly different with them. They're not going to guard this kid. They're going to double from that kid. They're going to jam the paint up as much as possible. A year ago, Dee Richards' player never left the lane, so they kept an additional defender in the lane. Last year, Liz and Queen, and even when Kate was in, they were usually double low posts, and so there were 2 posts in the lane, 2 post defenders, and then Dee's defender, all the time. So, it's a little bit of a guessing game to figure out, like, do they really think, they can no guard one of our guards? Do they play us a little more honest? But they're not a high pressure team. They are if they're going to get steals, it's because they're smart. They're anticipating. They're doubling. They're digging. They're understanding game plans, and they're understanding plays. And so I think they're still the same at the defensive end of the floor. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt, as much as they can, they're going to try to crowd and congest our bigs in the paint. But we also space the floor very differently.
Earlier this week, you talked about how, you guys still have all your important games in front of you, and you still kind of control your own destiny in the Big 12. How do you stress the importance of games like this against other teams at the top of the Big 12, while also, also kind of to the same degree treating it like any other game?
I mean, because it is, for us right now, it is any other game. Like, we can only control what's in front of us. Iowa State's in front of us, whether they were last in the standings or first in the standings, we've got to go 1-0. We certainly aren't playing from the front right now. But, in a week, we've gone from the bottom to the middle. So, that's just the nature of early season basketball in terms of conference play. And so we just have to go out and do what we need to do to beat Iowa State, and I think, then after that, you start preparing for the next game. And the standings will take care of themselves. If we take each opponent seriously, we don't put any more premium on one opponent than the other. Kate already talked about it. Anyone can beat anyone in this league. So, we're not taking the last place team, because a week ago we were the last place team, and I'm pretty sure nobody took us lightly. So, it's one game at a time mentality, 1-0 mentality.
Just going back to, you were talking about the way they played defense against this Baylor team last year. Obviously, you weren't here. How do you feel like the ability and willingness to shoot the three this year is going to help avoid that situation?
Yeah, we got to make them. I mean, we can shoot them. I'm sure. They are gonna choose what they're gonna give up, if anything. And it doesn't mean, they tend to play their post really in a drop position a lot anyway. So we may have to make some shots behind screens. Like, they're not going to no guard any of our perimeter players. They may show really deep help on the backside and try to play 2-on-1 on the backside. And if they do that, we need to play like we did against Kansas, and we need to play to the 2-on-1 a lot, and we need to be confident and be ready shooters on the backside. I mean, I think this is a team we can touch the paint against. We can get closeouts. We can attack to the next action. And so it's not about taking quick shots. I mean, I think as much as we're a team that can play fast, we still statistically are at our best when we make 3 or more passes. And so when we play from ball side to weak side and sometimes even back, like, we're more effective.
Do you like the chess match of an in-game defense that maybe you don't exactly know what it'll look like until 5 or 10 minutes in?
I like any chess match. I mean, I think that's part of what I love about coaching. I mean, it's when you've been around the game long enough and you've seen a little bit of everything, it's about making those in-game adjustments. It's about, okay, we need to twist our screens because they keep going under, or, here's an action. And I think what people don't understand is sometimes the play calls are dictated by how the defense is playing. So we looked in some ways very different against Kansas than we did against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State denied us one pass away. So as much as we could, keeping it in the tunnel was good action. Like, it was just us saying, let's put our 2 against your 2, or our 3 in the middle against your 3 in the middle. Against Kansas, that didn't sit on every pass, we could get ball reversal. We could get to the next action, whether that was inside out or outside in. But it's about figuring out where are the holes, and then taking advantage of those, both with our player personnel and the actions and sets that we have in. And so that's a big part of it.
You mentioned more opportunity for Jaden. She didn't get to play a lot in December. How have you seen her come back from sort of injury and sickness back to the role she's in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the big thing, was the injury. I mean, she started out getting a ton of minutes, the first couple of weeks of the season off the bench. She was getting over 20 minutes a game, just kind of rotating for all 3 of those players, and they're so interchangeable. But, when she started having shin issues, it was this weird dynamic of, like, having a numbers issue, so not wanting to fully shut her down right away, and her wanting to play in certain games, but then limiting her practice time. And I just don't think there's many players that are capable of giving you they're trying to give you their best, but are going to be at their best if they're not getting repetitions in practice. Like, I just think you're sharp when you have the repetitions to be sharp. And so I thought in the limited minutes, there just wasn't a sharpness, and it wasn't her fault. She didn't get the reps in practice and lost a little discipline in her positioning and her footwork on her catches, her footwork on defense. And so, I always knew she was going to be fine. It was just going to take getting her in the gym, having her practice, having her get the repetitions at both ends of the floor. And so, she's back. We sat her enough that she doesn't seem to be having issues now. And so that was the key, getting her as healthy as we could to get her, I don't think any player, I mean, Kate would be the first to tell you she feels like an old woman some days, like, that anyone plays, like, fully, like, feeling 100%. I mean, you get bumped and dinged and, you take a charge, you're laying on your tailbone. Like, there's always something, whether it's chronic or acute. But, having players that are as healthy as they can be, that aren't going to do anything that's going to make them worse. And so I think that's the situation she's in. She's going to get, just like every player, when you know you're going to get consistent minutes. I mean, I look at that. I watched both Iowa State Baylor games last year. The first one, Kate and Dejanay didn't play in, and so the rotation was like totally different than the second game. Jaden played a ton of minutes and made a bunch of threes and shots and was taking late shots, and in the second game didn't check into the game. You know, and so I think there's something to be said for consistency, and obviously that was very COVID-driven. But I think players, when they know they're going to play, when they know their role, when they know what the expectations are when they go in there, when they're not afraid to make a mistake, when they're, you know, and that's, quite frankly, that's the situation we're in. None of these guys can be afraid to make a mistake because we're going to play them. I mean, when you have 7 players, you're not sitting there with six people on the bench that you could be playing instead. So, you know, I think that can be a really healthy thing for these guys.
Caitlin, just out of curiosity, when all you've kind of known for the most part is success team-wise at the college level, how do you guys become successful at dealing with starting out winless in Big 12 play? You guys really haven't gone through that a whole lot.
I think it was really frustrating for us. I think we did have quite a few new and different players coming from different teams. I think, I know for at least me, Liz, and Queen, we took it really hard after losing to Kansas State. You know, we've been here for 4 years. We were on a national championship team. Like, we rarely were in a losing game. We rarely knew, like, what losing felt like. And I think for us, we took it extraordinarily hard after Kansas State. I know we were texting, calling, and we were just like, hey, like, we need to be better leaders. We need to be on top of this. We need to do better for this team in order for us to be leaders, in order for us to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And I think that was the same mindset everyone got after Oklahoma, after Kansas State. We all looked at each other and we were like, we need to be accountable for this. We need to do better. I think for us, it was hard coming back, COVID, everything like that. I think for us, Oklahoma was hard because and Coach Nicki can qualify for this. She told us how well we practiced that week. You know, every single day we came in, like, working so hard. Like, we knew we needed to do better. We knew we needed to prepare better. So after that game, I think everyone just kind of got annoyed, you know? Like, we were just like, all right, bro. Like, 0-2, like, come on. Like, we need to get one under our belt. Like, that was our thing. Like, and our biggest thing was just not giving up. I think we showed that going into Kansas, and now finally being back home and playing back home, we have a little bit like more energy, more excitement now that we finally have a couple wins under our belt, and just more confidence. You know, I think that's the biggest thing. Every single day we come in and practice, I think it's just building our confidence up, like trusting in each other and just kind of forgetting about the past.
Who do you lean on when no one really knows, like, has had that experience in leading through losses and things like multiple losses like that?
For me, you said, who do I lean on? I think for me and Liz are like really, really close when it comes to basketball. I think we just kind of have always understood each other and like what we're best at, what we do well at. I think, and just based off of losing, I never played with Jordan before this year, but Jordan has done a tremendous job, an absolute tremendous job at changing almost her attitude. Not saying she didn't have a good attitude before, but she's like made it her goal that she has to be that person that's positive every single play on the court. That's like, hey, we're good, like, because everyone's going to get down at some point or hard on each other, and she has made it her goal since we have had those 2 losses to just be in every single huddle and being like, we're good. Like, let's go, next play, let's do this, telling us what we're running, doing defensively. So I think it's not always one specific person. I think everyone does have their moments, but those 2 have definitely really stepped up and really stepped up for this team.
Which one was more the monkey off the back, Kansas or Oklahoma State? Which one did you guys feel so much more relief?
Kansas. Oh, wait, you said Oklahoma or Kansas State?
Oklahoma State or Kansas? Which one did you feel the most relief after? Which win?
Kansas or Oklahoma State? I thought she said Kansas State. Sorry. I totally got mixed up. I think Kansas was a more exciting win for us because we obviously had just gone back-to-back losses, and it was also an away game. And we knew Kansas was very capable of beating us at home, and I think it was more of just like a heart play. You know what I'm saying? Like, for us to have come back in the last 25 seconds when several other, like any other team in the country could have given up or just been like, hey, we're done. You know, like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to fight back, you know. But it was the fact that we truly changed, I think, from the ending of the Oklahoma game, because we were very capable of coming back in that game too. But I think the change in our heart and the change in our intensity was incredible from the ending of Oklahoma game to the ending of Kansas game. It was completely opposite.
Nicki, what's your defensive approach with Ashley? Because there's other players, obviously.
Not Fowler, you know. I think that's the key. She's so good at wheeling in the lane. You know, it's really interesting this year. Ashley is on catch and shoot threes, which for most three-point shooters is the bread and butter. It's the easier shot. She's shooting like 26%, but on step backs, you know, she's over 40%. So it's kind of reversed to what it would normally be. I mean, and you know, but if she knocks a step back on us with a hand in her face, you know, you play the next play. You realize that good offensive players are going to make good offensive plays. You know, I think the key with Iowa State, as much as you can make them play 2 by 2 by 2 and not let them get hot from the three. And they're a unique team because they are a team that both Donarski and Ashley Jones can make step backs. Most of their other guys are going to make the catch and shoot. Emily Ryan's not a high volume, but certainly more than capable of making open threes. It's a lot of – I think people don't respect the fact that one of the things that they do best, and they did really well against Baylor last year, is they put their head down and go. You know, like you think in the midst of covering up the perimeter and worrying about screening and worrying about flares – you know, Emily Ryan's just going to straight line drive you to the rim and spin off you. You know, they're creative. They're not necessarily explosive, but they're big and they're a little bit stronger. I mean, all their guards are bigger than our guards. And then when you get your body on them, they'll spin off or they'll keep their dribble alive. And so, you know, you don't want to give up threes, but you certainly don't want to be giving up layups all night either. So you know, when we can get them into jump shot mode, that's ideal, and then giving them one shot because they do offensive rebound pretty well too, and they get you spread out so they can run down some long rebounds. Their bigs go offensive rebound better than their bigs have in the past, and Ashley will get her own shot back. You know, she gets her shoulder by you and steps through, and if she misses, you know, she's kind of got position to get it back. So they're a tough matchup for sure.